Welcome to SoulWhat, a SoulTopia production. Every Tuesday, Michelle and Roger Welch take a deep dive into the intriguing and proactive world of metaphysics, a world beyond our human perception. They'll talk to empaths, readers, and other guests from all walks of life to find out what's hiding under the surface, uncover the mysteries of our modern world, and reveal the answers you need to live a happy, healthier life. Now, here's your hosts, Michelle and Roger Welch.
Well, hello. How are you doing today, Roger?
I am awesome. What about you?
I haven't seen you much today. That's unusual.
I know I had to go down to VA and take care of some housekeeping chores and repairs and things like that, on the building itself.
Yeah, so we have, as y'all know, or most of you that follow regularly, we have 3 stores, looking at a 4th. Hint, hint. You heard it here first. Yeah. You going to tell them where?
Well, all right. So y'all going to get surprised because I'm going to throw Michelle a bombshell. Well,
no, not on the show.
So, yeah, we were looking in Austin area. Okay, so we did kind of identify a place in Austin, but I was kind of messing around at like 2 a.m. this morning on my computer looking, and I may have found one in Fort Worth too.
2? Okay.
So
we'll talk later.
Maybe we'll take a...
This will be after the show talk. The Austin one was on Congress Street. You could see the Capitol from the store.
Yeah, you could. You could just step right outside the door and whoop, look right out around the corner, and there's the Capitol.
So we love you guys in Fort Worth, but we really love Austin.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
But we've had people for a long time begging us to open a store in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
But,
and the thing was I never could find anything, but I did find this one, but who knows? I mean, the pictures could look great and it'd be a piece of shit.
Yeah, well, could be. We do have a commercial real estate agent, but Roger thinks, and that's what I was going to say when I brought up we have so many stores, is Roger is getting used to being CEO of this ever-growing, blossoming company, growing faster than we know what to do with, which is wonderful. But
I wasn't going to go do those repairs. It was just a couple of little repairs. I wasn't going to go do them because I know you told me to stop doing them, but...
He likes it, and I love that.
It's not that big a
humility.
Deal. It was not that big a deal, and then Emily she was sick,
so
and she couldn't go.
Who? Oh, you're a repair person. Yeah. So
our
handy person.
Our handy person couldn't go because she was a little sick.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about our guest today. I have been a guest. I was lucky enough to be on her show, and then after I was on her show, I was so impressed. And I'm on a lot of podcasts, and she probably is too, you guys. I'm about to read her bio, but I got with Ashley Daniel, who does our scheduling, and I'm sure, like Dr. Ellen's show, our show has a lot of people who request to be on, and so we're booked pretty far out. And I said we have to get Dr. Ellen on our show because I'm so impressed. And Matt Stoker, our producer, I spoke with you, remember, and I told you how impressed I was how she handled 2 guests. Yeah, and how she divided that out. And so I'm going to just go ahead and read Dr. Ellen's bio because we're going to want all the time to speak with her today. Dr. Ellen is a psychologist, a registered dietitian, national board-certified health and wellness coach, Reiki master, and mindful self-compassion teacher. Known as the Midlife Whisperer, she helps women raise their vibration so they have the energy, confidence, and clarity to make their next chapter their best chapter. A best-selling, award-winning author, inspirational speaker, and expert on women's well-being, Dr. Ellen has appeared on Extra, the Food Network, and NBC World News, and has been quoted in Psychology Today, Eating Well, USA Today. She has written 5 books and articles for Self, Better Homes and Gardens, and Good Housekeeping. Her latest book is Rock Your Midlife, 7 Steps to Transform Yourself and Make Your Next Chapter Your Best Chapter. I love that. She brings over 25 years of counseling, coaching, and healing experience to her holistic practice and her transformational work. She lives on the Champlain Islands of Vermont with high-tech, raw food-loving partner Ken and her tree-climbing border collie, Rosie. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ellen. It's good to see you again.
Hey, Michelle, good to see you again. Nice to meet you, Roger. It's such
too.
a treat. You were so much fun on my show.
Thanks
That was
for
like such a great show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed being on there, and I loved your other guest too. She was so fascinating. She was I was telling them, I was talking on another show, so I won't tell the whole story again, but how she was we need to link that show somehow, or we'll link it later, how they can get to your other shows, but how she was a solo traveler. And the thing I never asked her, Dr. Ellen, was she single? Like the whole time, do you know the whole time she did that? The other guest, her name was Barbara something, and she solo traveled.
Winard, I think. I don't know. I mean, I think she said she had a daughter. I'm not sure. It's a really good question. I'm not sure if she was single the whole time, but it sounds like she might have been.
Yeah, maybe. It's one of those I wasn't sure if we should ask, and it was so cool because each guest got to ask the other guest a question, which I found
We should have made that your question.
I could have, but I had 3 questions written down, so I had to go with the better question. I can't remember what it was, but it was a better question. But I was looking at your book today, Rock Your Midlife, and we're going to carry it in the store because a lot of people that come in need to read this book, including me. I like to highlight. So I was highlighting, if y'all can see. Can you see this? I highlight on my. This is my Kindle on my phone. Now, I don't know. Here's how it goes. I highlight on my Kindle on my phone, and then I screenshot it. I don't know. I screenshot anything that's really important. So I end up screenshotting a lot of stuff, and I send it to
like 5,000 screenshots.
Screenshots of what I think is important because, it doesn't always save on your phone everything you highlight. I mean, it does, but sort of. So I was screenshotting away, and that's a good indicator for me that I need to go get the book, like the actual tangible book, because I like the tangible books to use with my yellow highlighters. So tell us a little bit first about because you did a lot before you wrote this book. You were doing all kinds of different writing, and how did you get into writing the book that to rock your midlife? I mean, you lived a lot of life before rocking your midlife. So how'd you get there?
Yeah. Well, I have a tiger as a power animal, so I have had like 24 different lives, not even 9. But I think to me, first of all, I wrote the book because I felt like the world needed a good how-to book. Like midlife is changing rapidly because we're living longer. Mm-hmm. Used to be people were dying in their 50s, and now we're living into our 80s. Personally, I'm planning on making it to at least 100. So the face of midlife is changing, and when you put midlife in Google or thesaurus, what comes up is crisis on the wrong side of 40. And I'm here to say, I'm loving midlife. It's a lot of challenges, like health crisis and empty nest and divorce and all the stuff. But I really got into writing it because I felt like the world needed a how-to book. A lot of memoirs out there, but a how-to book that anyone could pick up and do any of the 7 steps. I'm going through my own midlife, which has been crazy, so I wanted to share some of my story. And I've worked with hundreds of women at midlife, even before I was at midlife. Midlife women have always fascinated me, and they've always been drawn to my work. And so I had all of these stories, and I put together the signature system in the book, and I just want to change the way we look at midlife and aging. And so I've also, I guess, in terms of what I've always loved to do is writing. I know you're a writer as well, so it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. Like when I have to sit down and do it and getting into it, it's like procrastination. It's like, can I feed the dog and can I make another cup of tea? But I really like, when I have the book and it's done and aspects of the process. So I've always wanted to be a writer since I was 5 years old. It's kind of in my genius zone of what I do. So it was a combination of, it was time to write another book. I felt the world needed it. I wanted to reach more people. And as you know, with a book, you can, reach a lot more people than you can with just coaching or, working one-on-one with people. So it's been fun to put it out in the world and see how it lands.
Right. And it's interesting because you were talking about those ages. And so the midlife has gone up then, I guess, what we would call midlife. And maybe different people would define midlife differently. Because
I'm not there yet.
Ha ha ha. You are.
No.
Yeah. But it's okay if you don't feel like you are. But I think the thing is to think of that it's not a bad thing to be at midlife, right? That it's an exciting thing to hit midlife. Because for me, I guess my question then is, as answer what we were just talking about, what would you define as midlife these days? Would you do it based on numbers of a life expectancy or how you feel in your life? How would you define that?
Well, it's generally considered between like 40 and 65, but I actually feel like it's expanding because we're living longer. So I know I meet a lot of people in their 60s who still feel they're in midlife. And I like to think of it more as we get to adulthood. So we've got this first adulthood, like our 20s and our 30s, where we try to figure it out. I know your story of being a lawyer, my story of like trying to fit in and having more degrees than a thermometer. I'll get more degrees, more certifications, and maybe I'll feel comfortable and good about myself. Sort of for me was all being in the spiritual closet. But we are 20s and 30s. We're trying to figure it out. Maybe even early 40s, we make a lot of mistakes. And then we start to realize that we're running out of time, and we start to feel kind of like a chick in a shell, like I'm running out of space and time, and I'm sort of pecking my way out. I'm trying to redefine myself. So it's kind of that period of life where you start to realize that perhaps there is less time in front of you than behind you. You're running out of time. And I think, when we talk a little bit about the transits, of course, there's this first Saturn return that happens at the end of our 20s as we're looking at 30. Like Saturn's about, okay, it's time to get real now. It's time to get serious. Saturn is a planet of like, come on, you're here to do something. And then we start looking at that again in our late 50s, early 60s. So it's this period of like, I'm here to, your soul, we incarnated for a reason. And so it's kind of like this waking up and saying, if you're not there, some people are there, they did it in their 20s and 30s and they're totally on their path. But there's a sense that, when people come to me, it's kind of like, God, what's my passion and purpose? I don't really know yet. But, age-wise, I would say 40 to 65 or so. But then there's this sort of restlessness that happens. And there's this U-shaped happiness curve across 138 countries that shows that happiness dips in our 40s. And then it swings up again. So we get this period where we've got this low and we're trying to figure out, who am I? Partially because I think so often we're trying to fit into somebody else's box, right? We're trying to please other people. Like I know you were a lawyer. I was kind of in that same boat of like, I'll get into the right school and I have the right career and I'll live someone else's dream. And then we get there and realize, wait a minute, I've been climbing this ladder of success, but it's up against the wrong building. And that's where this discontent happens. And we start realizing I need to change and do something because I'm here for a reason and I want to enjoy my life more.
How often do you see divorces or changes of partnerships come along with those changes?
I would say at least 50% of the people who come to me are unhappy with their marriage. And what I usually do is, if they're really unhappy and it's not fixable and they want out, then, let's look at like what that looks like. But I usually have people prototype, what does it look like to separate, maybe talk to divorce lawyers, talk to friends who've been divorced, maybe try a little bit of a trial separation, work on yourself, and then let's work on making it better. But I would say probably about 50% of the time, I see people and they are not happy with their marriage.
Because sometimes that does, especially even those that maybe didn't choose the marriage, it gives you maybe a chance to reframe some things in your life, to look at some things in a different way, and maybe to consider some different options that you didn't have before you. So I think those are some of the things that could lend hope to some of the people who maybe were on the receiving end. One of my best friends, this has been a while, so I can say it, who, it was a big shock to her, and she's reframed her life and she's really happy now. So it was a horrible upset in her life, but she's reframed this, she's definitely rocking her, I'd say midlife, because she was like, oh, wait, I can do all these things now. I can travel a lot more. I can do a lot of things. So I was just curious about that. And the other thing that I found really interesting is right at the beginning of your book, you say the average woman changes jobs about 12 times in her lifetime. I notice now that people are changing jobs a lot more. Like my dad I think he changed jobs like one time. At the very beginning, he's a chemical engineer. He's retired. He was with Dow, and then he went to Eastman Kodak, Texas. It was Texas Eastman Kodak, and worked there his whole life. People don't seem to do that anymore. So people seem to kind of change jobs, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So 12 times. and then, change jobs, partners, your hair, color, your health. I'm quoting from the book, sell everything, move to a tiny house. These are things you could do. Move to the tiny house in a foreign country. Want to do that one, Roger?
Yeah, let's do that.
He would do that.
I've got a couple of places picked out.
He would totally do that. I'm telling you. But and it says
Got my 5-year plan on that one.
you say begin by changing the story that you have no control over your life and that life is happening to you. That is incorrect. Would you want to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we realize that life is happening for us, that we wanted to be here, and I think we're living in very pivotal times where we want to be here, we want to make a difference. I think a lot of times when I meet midlife women, yes, they sort of don't understand that we are the authorities, we're the authors of our life. And they just sort of let life happen. But, because those of us who are interested in metaphysics and understand the law of attraction, we're very aware that our thoughts and our emotions work together to create our reality. So our thoughts are kind of like the blueprint. Our thoughts really influence how we behave, how we act. And then that emotional piece is kind of like the energy behind the thoughts that helps to attract those things to us. And I know I've manifested this incredible place where I live on this beautiful island with this amazing man who grows all our food and is spiritual and successful and kind and sweet and sexy and all these things. And if you had told me like 5 years ago when I was in a relationship that was so dead end and I was so miserable that I would be this over the moon, where I wake up every morning and I'm surrounded by like flowers and birds and it's gorgeous, that I would have been like, sign me up. But I manifested this.
Yeah.
And it really, to me, happened by loving myself. And I think that's where we start, is where I started anyway. And that's step 2 in my book, because when you love yourself, you stop doing things that insult your soul and you start attracting what's really in your best interest. But we are so much more powerful than we believe. But I think we're in this space right now where a lot of people have spirit or soul amnesia. Like they forget that they have a soul, even that they have a spirit, that they can change their reality, and that they can be the authors of the authorities of their life.
Right, I agree with that. And you also manifested a tree climbing dog.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, Rosie can actually go up probably about like 6 or 7 feet up a tree. And I kid you not, she chases squirrels up trees. And it was amazing when I drove up here. Ken and I met 2 years ago during COVID. And I came up to his place the first time, and the theme song of Gone with the Wind's like going in my head. I was just like, what? And then the dog's there, the perfectly 3-year-old, well-trained, beautiful border collie. It's like the universe knew better than me what would truly be best for me. I was doing this practice called destination vibration, where I was visualizing a time in my life. It's something I write about in Rock Your Midlife, where I was just incredibly happy, joyful. And that really is all about dance. So I'd visualize myself, I was 5 and 12 and 24 and all these ages dancing. And I felt like that energy is what attracted all of this beautiful life that I've created.
Oh, that's awesome.
So when you talk about manifestation, do you have a actual practice that you do for yourself and teach others?
Well, that would be the destination vibration. I would say right now I'm so in a place where I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So it's more about just kind of walking through what's happening to me right now. But I would say, certainly practicing with the new and the full moon. So we've got a great Leo moon happening on Thursday. So it's great with the new moon to set some intentions, take a look at where the moon is falling in your chart. So I certainly work with the moon, and I'm not an astrologer, but I love astrology. So I definitely use that as a practice. Every morning I wake up and I, do some gratitude practice, and I think about what would make today amazing and do some affirmations. So now it's just really leaning into more love, success, and abundance in my life. And I feel like that is just like I've planted my seeds, and now I just need to water them and keep the soil really fertile and give myself lots of sunshine.
Nice.
Yeah, you were talking about astrology, and I've been studying astrology for quite some time, and we were talking about what what we want versus what people tell us we should want and things like that. And I think we talked about it on your show and what we are expected to do. Very early on, I don't know how old I was, somebody told me that I was not to learn astrology, that was something I wasn't going to learn. It wasn't meant for me. And it wasn't even a religious thing. It was just something, I think an astrologer, they were like, you're going to learn other things. So it was just something that always got in my head that I wasn't going to learn. So now every time I talk about it, I stumble around it, and I've been learning it from Monty Farber, who I told you about before the show. He's in the Hamptons, and he's a wonderful man. How are they in the 70s? Yeah, and they're just a wonderful couple, Monty Farber and Amy Zerner.
I talked to them yesterday.
Did you?
They're freaking working every day still.
They are just wonderful people, and they have a beautiful relationship. Their love story is just absolutely beautiful. But tell us a little bit more. I know you touched on it, but I have it in my notes. It says, talking about the transits that coincide with midlife. Talk about that Chiron return, if you didn't already finish, and the second Saturn return. Just explain to our listeners. We have a lot of listeners that are very interested in astrology. If you would just explain a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, Chiron is known as the wounded healer. So Chiron was like the teacher of the gods. And what happened is he got shot with a poison arrow, and he was in tremendous pain. And then the gods were like, we're going to put you out of your pain. We're going to put you up, in the sky. So he became the wounded healer. So what Chiron takes about 50 or so, 55 years to go around the sun. So all of us in our, 50s hit our Chiron return. So for those people born between March 1960 and March 1968, your Chiron is in Pisces. So you've already had your Chiron return. But if you've got Chiron in Pisces, that's really the woundedness is about, being a people pleaser, doing everything for everybody else, being selfless, right? I know for me, it was always about, I just want to make everybody happy. And it never worked. And you put everybody else first. When you're healed, it's really about having healthy boundaries, things I talk about in my book, self-compassion, which is really another practice that I do. Again, that's at step 2 of loving yourself, putting yourself first. I can't give from an empty cup. So for me, it really, I'm a Chiron Pisces, Chiron in Pisces. So it's really about that learning to love and care for yourself and not always putting others first. For those who are born between April 1968 and June 1976, so that's more of like the Gen Xers, they've got Chiron in Aries, which is happening right now. As we speak, Chiron is currently in Aries. And it's this sense of like, I don't have a right to be here, feeling this sort of fundamental not okayness with myself, not feeling self-sufficient. And when you heal your Chiron, you feel lovable, you feel worthy, you feel that you have a right to exist. So I think part of this Chiron return is really appreciating yourself, everything you've been through, not taking the judgment away, realizing, I've done lots of things that I'm not proud of, but I accept it all. So I think the Chiron return is this opportunity where these wounds kind of get opened up, and we have an opportunity to clean them out and love ourselves on a deeper level. And it sort of sets us up for the second Saturn return, which is really about, whether it's first Saturn return or second. Again, this happens around our 20s, 30s, and then it happens again in our late 50s or 60s. Are you on your path? And I totally thought I was. I was so I'm in Saturn return right now. Saturn's in Aquarius, and I have Saturn in Aquarius. And I thought, I got my book going on. I got my brand. Everything is working in my favor. But then I got breast cancer in April. And that was just like, what? It was not on my vision board. I didn't manifest it. I didn't want it. I don't know why it happened. I'm understanding that the universe has got a little adjusting for me to do. I'm going to be fine. It's early stage, and the treatment's been great, and I will be fine, and I'm getting through, and I've learned a lot. But there was some more Saturn stuff for me to do. And Saturn, is actually in Aquarius until March of 2023. So those of us in that who have Saturn in Aquarius still have some dealing to do.
Mine is too. I was looking, Saturn in Aquarius is mine in the 5th house. So my Saturn, you were asking earlier, Saturn in Aquarius in the 5th house, and my Chiron is in the 6th house in Pisces. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's stuff well, you've had the Chiron returns, but you're still dealing with that Aquarius return, but being more of who you're supposed to be. I think this whole period is about embracing who you are, letting go of who you're supposed to be, and embracing who you truly are.
Which, I'm very open about, because that's been my whole life, and I think a lot of people, right? I'm sure you deal with a lot of people from that age range in my age range, who we were raised that you put other people first. You that's what's polite. You're selfless, like you said at the beginning. And a lot of what came with being polite was to, kind of put everybody else first, especially maybe it's not especially in the South, but in the South, the way I was raised, it was definitely, you put everyone else first, and that's being polite, right?
That's what they think.
Yeah. Mississippi too?
Yes.
In Mississippi?
Yeah.
Roger's raised in Mississippi, born in Tennessee, raised in Mississippi. I'm born in Texas, lived here all my life. So yeah, very much also some of the religious aspects that were put into that too, so, and it's learning to reprogram that thinking, and it takes a lot to get those conditioned beliefs out of even in the vernacular, even the things you say and that come out of your mouth. I still will hear myself saying things and I'm like, but that's not what I want to practice anymore. But that's what my mouth is telling my brain. My words they're creating that reality, even though I don't even believe that anymore. It's so ingrained, right, into my thinking. So, and so you give a lot of ideas in your book. You give these 7 steps to rock your midlife. So do you want to kind of highlight a few that you think would be important for us, or that you feel like talking about tonight?
Sure, I can go through all of them. It
That'd be
doesn't
great.
take that long.
That'd be great.
The first one is authenticity. And authenticity, we kind of touched on that root word, author, right? Being the authority on your own life and knowing yourself. Like, how many of us don't know ourselves well? If you want to rock your midlife, if you're being an imposter, you're wearing a bunch of masks, you're living someone else's life, there's no way you can rock your midlife, because you're not going to be happy if it's not yours. So this chapter is really all about giving people tools, from looking like when you were 5, what did you want to be when you were a little kid? And then there's all kinds of character strength tests that you can take, asking other people, what am I awesome at? What would you do all day long if, money weren't an object? Like, what, really getting to know yourself. What are your core values? What are you passionate about? What do you do that is just amazing? So that's the first step. The second step we touched on a little bit, and that's loving yourself. And that's so important because, again, when you love yourself, you that enoughness, and that's when Roger asked me earlier about what are my practices, and I work with so many people about elevating their value. We're in a place right now where we need to elevate our own value and worth, and when you do that, that's when you start to attract more things. But a lot of us have what's called an upper limit in our happiness. So we have to really start to look at, okay, why every time I reach a certain level of well-being, I sabotage myself. So those people, right? They get to a certain level and I'm like, I'm only good enough to have this much.
Yeah.
And then we sabotage ourselves. So working on the self-compassion piece, which is kind of the how of self-love, which is just treating yourself the way you would a good friend. So that's step 2. Step 3, you've talked a little bit about, that's energizing yourself. So that's going from poop to supercharge. And that's really where I draw on my training as a registered dietitian, as a health and wellness coach, and just really telling women at midlife how to eat right, how to move your body. It's not crazy. It's really a whole foods, plant-based diet. We need a little bit more protein. We need to make sure we're getting vitamin D. We need to make sure we're getting enough calcium. We're moving our bodies. We're dealing with stress. We're sleeping well. So that's that health and well-being, because if you're sick, if you've got a chronic disease or you don't have a lot of energy, you can't rock your midlife if you don't feel good.
I
talk a lot.
May interrupt you right there. What do you think for somebody who used to exercise a lot, then they just kind of became sedentary? What do you think is the best way, or is it just what they like the most to get moving again?
Yeah, I would say what you enjoy and what works for you, but it's really good to set what's called SMART goals. So goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time sensitive. A lot of times we have this idea of I'm just going to get in shape, or I'm just going to lose weight. And that's kind of the outcome that we want. But then we have to get more into the process, and also kind of looking at something I talk about in the book called immunity to change. Like, I want to get in shape, so then why am I not going walking? Why do I not go to the gym? Why am I not doing all of those things? So it's really a matter of starting to make it a habit and making it, as you said, enjoyable, whether that means you're walking with a friend or listening to a book on tape or taking a class that you like, making it something that's fun for you. But everybody likes different kinds of forms of exercise. Sometimes it's fun too to have kind of an activity that you tie to it, like maybe you want to run some kind of marathon or do a walkathon or go on some kind of like bike ride or climb Machu Picchu or something like that.
Like a goal.
Kind of, or hire a cute personal fitness trainer.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of women like, go hire a sexy personal fitness trainer. You'll get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and make sure you get to your workout.
Right.
So figuring out what works for you.
Right. Okay, so I interrupted you on the
That's okay.
The poop to supercharge. So there's your.
Then we get to changing your mindset, which is kind of, I think, what you're starting to see, Michelle. It's awesome that you're recognizing, because you've got, our brains. We used to think that the brain was stable, and just we only got so far in terms of change when we were adults. It sort of stopped. And now we know that there's something called neuroplasticity, which means that your brain's constantly changing, your nervous system's constantly changing. And so you've got all these old tapes of ways to be and how to treat yourself. And so this chapter is really about both changing your mindset, keeping your mind more positive, more focused, more intentional on what you want, but also working on memory, because that's something that seems to slip a little bit in midlife, particularly as women are going through menopause and they're getting that, brain fog kind of thing. So this chapter is really all about reprogramming your brain. And then we get to step 5, which is about empowerment. And I think of all my steps, this is the one I didn't totally understand. And certainly my recent health diagnosis, where I've advocated for myself, has helped me to really understand what empowerment is. So being powerful from within instead of looking from without. What really charges you up? What helps you to be as fully formed a human as you can? And it's kind of like taking that authenticity and marrying it with the law of attraction, so that you're really attracting what is truly in your best interest. So that's all about empowerment, which means different things to different people. And then we get to 6, which is about rehabbing your relationships. And this is really an interesting one, because what happens is you go through the steps and you start to become that butterfly, and you're like, look, I'm a butterfly and I'm fluttering around and I'm beautiful and I'm free. But people in your life are like, no, you're the caterpillar. I see you. You're eating leaves. You're the caterpillar. In their mind, they still see you the way that you were and the way you've always been. Yeah. And so this chapter is really about letting that people pleaser go that we've talked about, particularly for women with that Chiron in Pisces, setting boundaries, and also learning something called nonviolent communication to communicate to get your needs met. And then we get to the last chapter with the last step, which is enlighten yourself. And this is really understanding that you are a soul having a human experience, which I think is so much of what your show is about, is really connecting with your soul and your spirit and allowing that to help you to find purpose and meaning and passion in your life.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Thank you. And I honestly think that, we're going to get the book in the store because I think this would be a really good book to give your friends because, because it's not like an insult. Oh, now it's your midlife, because it's a fact, certain time periods your midlife. And so many of these things are helpful. I was reading through, and when I'm highlighting like every other sentence, that's like, oh, good tidbits. Oh, I need that. I need that. I need that. And that's what I was doing. And that's why it was taking me. Usually I can zip through a book, zip through really fast. When I can't zip through a book really fast, that means there's a lot in there. There's a lot of meaty stuff in there that I want, which is what your book is. So we really need to get the book. And I think, one for me, one for 3 friends, you know what I mean? To give to the friends, right?
And I want to do the Austin book signing, so I'm advocating for the Austin store. My my stepson lives in Austin, and we've been meaning to get down there. So
oh yeah,
you'll like it.
I'd love to come. Yeah,
like
I heard it's a really cool town.
It's a cool town. It's a cool town.
Very much so. So why is self-compassion a superpower?
Well, because, self-compassion is both a life vest and a parachute. So it's a life vest when you have a crisis, if something happens to you. So let's say you have a health crisis, you go through divorce, maybe you've got some job loss, something financial. I know people whose houses have burned down. So often when something goes wrong, where you say either like, this shouldn't be happening to me, or we go right into fix it mode, or we beat ourselves up, or we ruminate about it. But with self-compassion, instead of doing that, you take a moment and you're just like, this sucks. This is so hard. And you comfort and soothe yourself just like you would a good friend. Like if you had a good friend who was going through any of those things, like what would you say to her? You wouldn't be like, you better like fix this now, right?
Right.
You would say, can I give you a hug? Can I make you a cup of tea? Can I make you dinner? I'm here to listen to you.
Yeah.
So that's the way, it's really powerful in terms of that healing piece and feeling, and it makes you fall in love with yourself. So that is going to help you to sail through whatever hurdles you have. And then in terms of the parachute piece, when you want to take a risk, and the biggest thing I find at midlife is everybody's stuck because we don't like uncertainty. Your brain doesn't care about you being happy or fulfilled, about being enlightened. It only cares about keeping you safe, and stepping outside your comfort zone is unsafe. And people don't like uncertainty. So when you want to do that thing, I had a client today and she just comes up with a list of everything she wants to do, and then she gets overwhelmed, then she shuts down and she goes and watches Netflix and eats potato chips. I see this all the time where people are comfortably uncomfortable. And so with self-compassion, you take that risk. You get on that dating website. You decide, I'm going to move, or you decide, I'm going to switch careers or switch jobs or get that divorce. You know what? And if I don't quite succeed or it's difficult, well, then I've got this self-coach, this self-compassionate part of me, that this wise friend inside of me that can say, I'm here for you. You got this.
Right.
And you go for those things that ultimately, if we want to be happy, we need to be courageous, right? That we need to step outside our comfort zone and do new things, which is, I think, midlife women get stuck.
It's interesting because in my first book, The Magic of Connection, I spoke about one of the quotes that seems to get quoted a lot. Let me see if I can quote it right myself, but it's something like, empaths are superheroes with compassion as their capes. And so and I believe that, because we need that compassion so much for not only ourselves, for others right now. And so, we're kind of tying in that superhero. We were kind of onto the same thing, that collective tends to zone in on the same ideas. We didn't even know each other when we were writing sort of around the same concept, right? So when did your book come out?
It came out in November.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we all want to be, we want to be the star card in the tarot, right? We want to be that naked, shining star card. And unfortunately, we're more like the Eight of Swords, right? That woman, if you know the Eight of Swords, she's sitting there and she's stuck in the mud and she's got the blindfold on and she's bound and she's got 8 swords around her and her castle and everything she wants is right there. And the thing is that she could just wiggle right out. It's not like she's the same, like with the devil card, right? It's like the stuff that are things that we ruminate about bedevil us. Yeah. But we can step outside that and really find our castle and find where it is we want to go, as long as we just take those blindfolds off.
Right. It's interesting. I do a show. You need to come on that show. I do every Friday an Instagram Live. It's Tarot Takeaways, and we do a card a week. And we are on this week,
King
I
of
think.
Swords.
Huh? Queen?
King.
No.
Queen.
Queen of Swords. But we were on the Eight of Swords, and I tried to do the Eight of Swords for like 3 weeks in a row, because the Eight of Swords is so interesting to me, because she just, it's like the swords, they're right there, it's open, and we don't know if her hands are really bound, but she could probably get out of that, but yet she doesn't know, she might not feel that she can, and she feels stuck. And when you even look at the traditional Rider-Waite, we were looking at the ground. Some of it's water, some of it's kind of looks like mud or soil, and everything she wants right there. And I'm the type that you mentioned in your book, a little bit of what is it when you're afraid of success? Like, what did you call that? When you sabotage yourself when you're afraid of success. What is that? I'm drawing it blank. What is that called, you guys? When
self-sabotage?
Self-sabotage, but when you're reaching success and then you want to sabotage success, like you're afraid of achieving success. I have a little bit of that.
Yeah, well, that comes from, I think that, when you're able to raise the bar. And I've been talking a lot about that because I think that that's what this Leo moon, I've got a Leo rising, Leo North Node, and Mars in Leo. So I'm like Leo season, right? So, but it's about raising the bar around who you are.
Yeah.
When you raise the bar, when you stop this self-limiting beliefs, and that's why we sabotage ourselves. But when you start to feel like, yeah, I'm worthy of all of as much love, success, and abundance as the universe wants to throw at me, and you notice those thoughts, so those things that keep us small, because you staying small is really safe.
It is.
You're safe. And
you're safe.
And so you have to kind of, step out and say, I want 50 stores.
Yeah.
I want to be the name that's synonymous when people think metaphysical stores or, online or all of those things, and just go for it.
Yeah. And the books, it's like, oh, I'm writing the third one. And I'm like, you get that imposter syndrome, and you're kind of like, it's not really. And I started looking at that and thinking, no, I'm just doing that to myself, because it's those old tapes of hearing, you don't really deserve to be happy. You weren't put on this earth to be happy. You're put on this earth to, do other things that would, so a lot of other people have that conditioning too, especially in this part of the world, this part of the United States, in the Bible Belt that I'm in. They have this, so the clients that come to me, they have a lot of the same type of issues. They have the issues of, they might not voice them as I'm pretty open with what I go through. I'm pretty, I get to the point where I'm pretty open with it. Once it's out there, I'll say, I'm kind of afraid of success.
But what you can do, and it's very common, I do this with clients all the time, it's called internal family systems, and I think I talk about it in the book, but you just give that part of yourself voice and ask it, how is it trying to help you? I mean, keeping you small is keeping you safe, whether it's procrastination or it's a self-critic, keeping you in line. And you just say, you can sit over there, or I love what Elizabeth Gilbert says about fear. You can sit in the back seat, but you can't drive. Yeah. You can sit in the back seat and you give it another job. I was trying to think, I had a woman today, and just a lot of times I'll have people, when that voice comes up, instead of listening to it, it'll be a trigger for something else. So every time that voice comes, I give myself a little self-compassion, or I get curiosity is awesome. Get curious about this voice, and you give it, instead of just shoving it down, because it'll pop back up like the game of whack-a-mole. Just try to figure out how it's helping you, thank it, and then say, you know what? You can have a timeout, or find another activity that you could get yourself to do instead, and it'll be kind of magical.
I will do that. And I think you did refer to that in the book, and I'll get to that part because I'm going to take more time with your book. Let's touch a little briefly, and I don't want to limit the time, but let's do, if you're all right with it, touch briefly on your diagnosis, because I have a lot of friends. We have a lot of listeners. I have some people that work with us. One of my very close friends that's received, and I think I told you this, that's received a diagnosis of breast cancer recently. What do you want to share about your diagnosis? I know you're very open with your listeners.
Sure.
And so what would you like to share with our listeners regarding that and how you're walking through that?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for bringing it up, because I think it's really important. So certainly early detection is where it's at. This is not your mother's breast cancer. I'm stage 1A, which means that it was invasive ductile, but it wasn't in my lymph nodes. So it was basically the size of a dime. If you get diagnosed early, mine was diagnosed with a breast ultrasound because I have dense breasts. What happens is basically it's surgery, radiation, and some kind of chemo agent. But I guess my first thing to say is it's not your mother's breast cancer, right? And it can happen to anybody. It was not on my vision board. I am the healthiest person I know. I've done everything right, from nursing my kids to my diet, everything. I think I had some stress and trauma in my life that gave birth to it, and I've also realized that I've got a gene mutation. But I guess the thing I want to say is, you don't be scared of getting your mammograms. Don't wait until you can actually, you have a lump. It's too late, because it's a very different prognosis if you are, stage 4. And it's spread through your body than if you are stage 1A. It's not a scary thing. I mean, I have had very little pain. I'm kind of sailing through it. And the other thing I'm really about is advocating for yourself and bringing in the complementary. When you get in this treadmill, you get diagnosed, and it's like boom, 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 boom. You see the surgeon, you see the oncologist, you see the radiologist, and they don't have a lot of wiggle room. but I'm creating wiggle room for myself. So I have a integrated medical doctor, I have a naturopath, I have a osteopathic doctor. I've done everything. Like I just went a couple days ago, and I had yesterday I had vitamin C infusion. I had 50,000 milligrams of vitamin C infused. It felt so good. So I guess my big things are, early detection. It's not your mother's breast cancer. Breast cancer is so well diagnosed now, and there's such good therapies for it. Mm-hmm. It's very treatable, very curable. Cancer is just an umbrella term that I think we're really scared of because it's cancer. Like when I said, I was like, cancer? Are you kidding me? But there are different diseases within that umbrella. And so it doesn't mean, it's the end. And it can also be a really incredible opportunity to grow. I know spiritually it's helped me a tremendous amount. It has really shifted my vibration. Right now I'm letting go and letting God, Yeah. I'm doing a lot less and a lot more is coming to me. I'm actually taking 3 solid weeks off in August. And I haven't taken time off. I am a recovering workaholic. Yeah. And I really had to face my workaholism. I had to realize I'm working too much. I had everything in my life to live a wealthy, beautiful life. I also hired an incredible spiritual mentor who is really taking me deep and healing on so many levels. So it's a great opportunity to heal. There's a lot of silver linings. And I would just say that if you feel that you want to do different things, there's a lot of incredible complementary things out there. And there's a whole smorgasbord of healing modalities from, getting incredible massages, listened to I don't remember her name, the woman who was the doctor and now she does the energy healing.
Right.
I heard that was a great show.
I'm going to say a wrong name, but yeah, I got in contact with her afterwards and I'm going to follow up, and I'm drawing a blank on her name right now, but there's a lot of, energy work. There's all kinds of things out there. So it's definitely not the end. It's an opportunity to take a look at where you need healing in your life, and be open to other things. If people want to get in touch with me, if they do get diagnosed, it's just the Midlife Whisperer. I'm happy to talk to people. I'm not sure how much cancer is going to be part of the work that I'm doing. But I also feel great. So I really haven't, radiation wasn't hard. The surgery wasn't hard. I'm in good shape, and the immunotherapy drug I'm getting, it's not fun, but I'm not getting chemo. I opted out of the chemo piece, and really advocated for myself. Right. So be a self-advocate and have those the people around you. Surround yourself with the people who can help you advocate for the path you want to take within it.
And to know that the people who are, the conventional people, they're lovely people, and I'm getting great care. But they're only interested in annihilating the cancer. They're not looking at, unraveling what caused it. I'm interested in making my body stronger, particularly because I've got that mutation. So there's a lot of other people out there, and there's lots of different approaches.
Right.
Can I ask a question that might be kind of stupid, but I'm curious?
There are no stupid questions, babe.
But when I was younger, I used to see a lot of things where it's like cancer awareness, different programs, right? I've probably done, 10 or 12 cancer walks, where you're raising money for cancer, awareness and things like that. I never see that anymore. Do they not do awareness stuff?
Oh, you mean the walks or the awareness?
I used to see them in like cities. It wasn't even the Susan G. Komen. It was just like the cities and different places and different groups would get together and do like walks to raise money for cancer awareness. Do they not do more stuff to get, like you were talking about, people getting their mammograms and stuff like that, but you used to see that like advertised like on TV, which I don't watch much TV. I get it, but used to see a lot of that. But do they not really get people's attention on it anymore, or they just put it out to scare people now?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think part of it might be due to COVID, right? So we've been in this kind of period where we're not doing as many of these kinds of gatherings, and particularly with people going through cancer, you really don't want to get exposed to COVID, especially if you're getting chemotherapy. So I think that the whole medical community is so burnt out from COVID. Like I'm just in awe of the people who worked with me because they were so compassionate, even though, I can't imagine what it would be like working in a hospital during COVID. especially
It's hard.
before the vaccine.
Yeah.
So I think part of it, Roger, might be COVID. And I think part of it too is that our media shifted so much. So I think more people maybe are shifting money to things like Facebook ads, maybe Instagram ads, away from like conventional television, and trying to, I think spreading that out. But, you still see things like, the NFL sponsors. I mean, they do a
Right.
big, breast cancer awareness.
In
I know the
October.
Jimmy Fund is still happening I'm sorry?
In October, yeah.
In October, and I know,
Yeah.
and I always see, when I first got diagnosed, I would see there's a company here that has cement trucks, and they have like big, pink ribbons on the cement trucks, and so I just see it. But I think, and part of it's interesting too, is that I know that part of the whole law of attraction thing is that when something is in your consciousness, you see it more. Like
Yeah.
I remember, when I decided to get a Portuguese water dog, I'd never seen a Portuguese water dog. And then all of a sudden I was seeing Portuguese water dogs everywhere. Or, when I was pregnant, I never didn't see pregnant women. And all of a sudden I got pregnant and I saw
Right.
pregnant women everywhere. But I think when you're sort of thinking about it and it's in your consciousness, we see that.
agree.
That's that whole kind of idea of like, are we, is this a movie that's kind of moving through us, or how are we creating our reality and what shows up for us? But I think the whole way that advertising is bought is shifting, and I think COVID had a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
a
I
great
agree
question.
with that. And I agree with both of the things. I believe that COVID, and I think that's what's in you start seeing what you are aware of.
Well,
Yeah.
I probably haven't done it because I did the walks like all the time, and I haven't done the last one I
have
saw.
them. They have
Well,
them.
I've seen a couple since I lived here, but
Yeah.
not like I used to see.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. Maybe it's because there's so many more for different kinds.
maybe
I don't
that's
know.
it.
Do y'all want to do we have about 8 minutes?
Yeah, 8
now?
minutes.
Would Dr. Ellen, would you mentioned some tarot cards? Would you be willing to do a few readings? Do we want to do the 1, 2, 3 readings, Matt? Do you
Sure,
think?
I've got-
Yeah.
Or do we want to? Since we didn't
Do we
ask.
have listeners or?
Now we have listeners, and I don't know. Sometimes we just do where we give a 1, 2, 3 for the week. But if you had anybody who asked for, do we have any questions or ask?
No.
We can do one or the other.
So I have my traditional. Do you want me to do reading, or you can do
We're gonna
reading?
both. I'll tell you in just a second. I'm asking
Okay,
him if
great.
we had any
Yeah,
questions.
Nobody
I'm all
actually
down.
has.
I've got
Okay.
my
Okay.
very old Whiter Raid here, which
I-
is interesting.
I love-
It's got the
So-
chariot's been showing up a lot.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, this is what we do usually at the close of the show. And then when we finish with this, I'm going to give you another chance to tell everybody how to get your book and all that. And then we'll also put it in the notes. But what we do is we're going to do a reading for the week. And so we're going to ask everyone to set their intention for whichever one comes up is best for you right now. Just number 1, number 2, or number 3. Pick a number, 1, 2, or 3. And I'm going to have Dr. Ellen is going to read first. So anybody who put number 1, that one's going to be for you. And then I'm going to read second. Number 2s are going to be me. And then Roger's going to read, do number 3. And before you close out the show, Roger, you'll give her, Dr. Ellen, a chance to talk about her book one more time.
Yes, I
Okay.
will.
So you're reading Dr. Ellen for the number 1s, and you're just going to give a general reading for everybody for this coming week for those who picked card number 1. Does that
Okay,
make sense?
so how many cards would you like?
Just
me to pick?
one. Just one card.
Okay,
Unless you
we'll
want to pick a
just
few
pick.
more, but that's up to you. We usually just do
All
one
right.
card.
All right. Well, I'm going to pick. All right, we're picking 2.
That's
So
fine.
my first card is the 5 of Cups upside down. And so this is really the card of disappointment. And so I like to read upside down cards as just kind of more of the inner work. So I think that there's people, if you pick number 1, perhaps you are looking at the 3 cups that are down in your life, looking at everything that is going wrong in your life. And if you see, if I turn it right side up, you can see that there's 2 cards that are right side up. So it's really telling you, rather than focusing on everything that's going wrong in your life, focus on what's going right. And then I picked, to go with it, the 8 of Pentacles, which is really about appreciating all the hard work that you've done to bring you to this place. So look at all the good things that you've done in your life and all the hard work, and appreciate yourself without judgment.
Perfect. So that's for all you number ones. And of course, number 2 is my favorite number. So I'm going to read for number 2s. I'm reading for
Picked
myself.
yourself, didn't you?
I picked myself. I'm reading for myself.
what I
But
figured.
I actually picked the Hermit card, which is one of the cards that Dr. Ellen put down as one of the tarot cards that symbolize midlife stuckness and transformation. And so I'll show you. I'm reading for my good friend Chris Ann Donnelly's The Light Seers deck that is so popular to so many people. And so I will show you her card. Can we see it, Matt? Can we zoom in on that? Okay. So this hermit is actually levitating a bit. Just levitating. And she's just got her hands over her knees. And she's just looking out into the stars and really just very comfortable. And what I am honing in on for the number 2s this week is to what we learned tonight is that we may feel like we're in sort of a stuck place, but it's because we're choosing to. We're choosing to take a pause, to take that time out for ourselves, to gain quote-unquote enlightenment, but also that transformation. I call it in my book transmutation. Let's go transformation, transmutation. We're gathering and information to help us elevate ourselves to get out of that area. So we're choosing to be a little bit stuck or to put a pause on things so that we can go to that next level to see what we want to do next that we've been talking about the whole show that Dr. Ellen's been talking about. That's the number 2s.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. So I did not use my unicorn cards, Matt, because she told me I had to behave tonight.
I said we have a special guest.
Probably a smart one.
Not the wild cards.
So I used my Mystic Martian cards and the Ink Gametsi cards. So I drew 2 cards, one out of each. First one is the High Priestess, and I got the Galactic Federation. But what I see with this one is all about community. The Galactic Federation card is really about community, your community, the people around you. And with the High Priestess card, with that, what I see is you need to take time this week to actually kind of be the person stepping up and speaking up for other people that are around you. Maybe it's not just speaking up, but maybe you're the shoulder for them to lean on, the ear for them to talk to somebody so that you have somebody to talk to. So this week, step up and be the person kind of there for other people this week.
Or lean on your community, maybe.
Or
too.
lean, yeah. Maybe.
Okay, I'm not trying to
What
usurp
the
your
hell?
reading.
Did I get into your reading over there?
You want to read my reading?
What the hell are they doing? Floating in the air?
They're levitating.
Levitating?
Yeah.
I would say, oh, well, okay.
Yeah. No, that's great, Roger.
All right, so Dr. Ellen, tell us, how can we find you?
Just Google the Midlife Whisperer or just go to themidlifewhisperer.com. That's themidlifewhisperer.com. And you can catch my show. You'll see Michelle. You'll see your beautiful picture on my show page. You can get my book. You can connect with me. You can get a free gift, which is 10 tips to rock your midlife. You can see me on Instagram, Facebook, all the places. But midlifewhisperer.com is the best place to get in touch with me. I'm also the Midlife Whisperer on Instagram.
Awesome deal.
And I will say my website is getting updated like probably tomorrow with all those, with your and all the things I've been on recently that we've been a little remiss in updating. So it'll be on there also. Sorry about that. It's not been updated. Okay. And so it will be. And so thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank
Roger?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just had to have you on because I just loved being on your show. You just, yeah. And we're going to get where's your book? Who publishes your book again?
I did.
Okay.
Me, little Tiger Wellness, me, and you can, people listening can get it hopefully through you, or they can get it on Amazon. It's available there as well. But I'd love for them to get it through you, and
it's a great
I
book.
would love to come to Austin.
Yeah, we'd love that too.
Awesome.
All right, do you want to close this out?
All right, guys. So that's our show for tonight, and we will see you next week with I don't know who on because I forgot, but we'll be here.
It's fine. We'll be here, and we look forward to seeing you guys. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Thanks for listening to SoulWhat, a SoulTopia production. If you're intrigued, searching, or looking to schedule a reading of your very own, visit us in sunny Dallas, Texas, or visit us online at facebook.com/SoulTopia Holistic Boutique. And if you like what you heard, Subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcasting platform to be the first to hear new episodes every Tuesday at 7:30 Central.